everyone. It's Luke and Brett. We're here on episode number 19 of the Luke and Brett Show. And today we're going to be talking to you something that I think is kind of strange, Luke, that we're going to be talking about. And that is the differences between face-to-face, voice-to-voice, in belly-to-belly, as they say, communication versus online digital communication. And the pros and cons of both. So I think first, starting off, I think it's unusual right now in the day and age that we live in that people are not utilizing digital more often. I think everybody's still focused. Now, I think you and I will agree that face-to-face, for lack of a better term, belly-to-belly communication is the highest form of communication. And ideally, that would be great to do that. But the way that society has changed, the way that our culture has changed, number one, that's not always possible. And number two, people may not want to meet with you face to face, and you're leaving a lot of business on the table because of that. What's your point of view on that?
Absolutely. I mean, the belly to belly, obviously, hands down, no questions asked, highest conversion rate. If you're face to face in the same room, you're going to have a much better end result than if you were to be, jumping on Zoom. But it's definitely, I think, to touch on your point there, is like some people might not want that, and it's like, how do you meet with your clients? How they, like, if somebody's, and I say this a lot, it's like, if somebody's texting you, don't call them, right? If somebody's emailing you, email them back, right? Like communicate with them in their preferred method of communication versus trying to take them off their preferred method of communication. So this could be, a DM. So if somebody doesn't want to meet face to face, it's all, then jump on Zoom. It's a convenience thing. But it's, that skill set is not one and the same. There's nuances to being able to take the effectiveness of that belly to belly and transfer that online. And it is a skill set, and it can be acquired and developed and honed over time. So
100%. So you and I have always specialized in the mortgage and the real estate side of things, but I think it's safe to say that this is a problem with sales. And the problem, maybe not a problem with sales, but maybe it's a cultural shift, a transition in sales. And that is that when you think sales activities, when you think prospecting, the automatic thing that I think that people are preconditioned to is thinking, okay, door knocking, cold calling. So telephone and face-to-face door knocking. And when we fast forward into the here and now, into a modern culture, and when we start looking at the buying patterns, the buying behaviors of not just the consumer, but to the salesperson too. They're doing the same thing. That everyone has to go through a discovery period. Everybody's communicating on multiple different channels. It's not just telephone. It's not just face-to-face. It's not just mail. Although I think on a separate topic, I think that mail isn't being utilized as much as it could, which leads a great advantage to those who actually adopt it the right way. You and I have talked about that. That's probably for another video. But if we look at that, to your point, DMs, direct messaging, you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have all TikTok, Twitter. There are so many things that you can DM people on. Text messaging, WhatsApp. We have
LinkedIn.
you and I
mean, it's like, where do you connect with them? Like, how is somebody reaching out to you, right?
So I can, and I'm pretty sure that you're the same way. If I were, number one, if I was not in the industry and I was looking to meet with a realtor or a loan officer, they have a really close to zero chance of meeting with me and my wife in person, belly to belly, in the middle of our discovery period, right? I'm going to make sure that before I actually, number one, I don't see any point with it. I think that real estate agents should start adopting to know how to do a listing or a buyer orientation meeting online. I think they should start learning how to utilize the Zoom platform, the Teams platforms, all the various different platforms, so you can actually do what the consumer is comfortable doing instead of forcing them into a channel, because I believe there's a lot of lost business being had because they're not utilizing it, because they're not being open enough to looking at this as a tool that could grow and scale their business.
Absolutely. One of the cool things is like, and this was like kind of forced upon people during the pandemic, where it was like, hey, they didn't have any other options, so they just jumped right into it. And I think that this is a really awesome bridge for a lot of folks to be able to go from like one-to-one, belly to belly, to then being a little bit more efficient, being able to have those, presentations or connections via Zoom where you can stack them up, back to back to back and go from one to the next. But then that also helps bridge the gap from being able to do the one-on-one to one-to-many, where you can start doing presentations or doing more like educational things where you're not just talking to like one seller or one buyer. You have 5, 10, 20, 30. We just got off out of a Facebook group where they had over 200 first-time home buyers on a live call.
Wow.
200. And it's just pure
look,
information and value. And so,
and if you do the math, let's just say on the low end, they're not going to convert 25% of those. But number one, they just increase their database by 200 names that they can continue to market to. So they are going to, their initial conversion rate will increase over time based off this initial event. But let's just say that 2%. We'll go off of maybe traditional marketing conversion. Let's just say 2%. Well, 1% would be 2. 2% would be 4 buyers. Let's say the average sales price. I think the average sales price in the United States now is like $350,000. So it's a $10,000 commission. About a $10,000 commission for a real estate agent,
right?
Off that one thing. And let's say 1%, you get 20 grand for an online buyer course. I mean, that's an ROI that you just cannot ignore, and it's going to continue to increase because the longevity, if they have a good nurturing plan and they stay top of mind and in front of these people, they'll convert more of those buyers over time, right? We're just saying 1% out of the gate, which the average sales price is like 20 grand. What is the lifetime value of that, of that program? I would argue to say that over time, who knows what time, that they'll probably at least get 10% out of it over. I mean, that's just me throwing out a number, but
totally.
I think that's realistic that you could, if you stay top of mind, stay in front of them, that you'll convert over time 10% of that initial. You'll weed out the people and they'll be part of your database. That's huge. When did you do that? This week?
Yeah, that was Wednesday.
Do you know what kind of ad spend they did to get that many people to it, or how they did that?
Well, this has been a work in progress. I have close to about 65,000 people in a Facebook group that's been building up over the course of.
Wow.
So it's
that's a good point. I mean, why are not real estate agents creating their own Facebook groups and nurturing their own local people? I mean, if someone else has done it, you could do it.
Yeah, and it is. So I think kind of to touch on our point that like belly to belly to Zoom, like I believe that's kind of the natural transition to being able to go from like taking those skill sets and like how do we convey this. And then it becomes significantly less about selling and more about educating and entertaining than selling. That like icky door knocky, cold calling. Nobody likes doing that, right? But also people don't necessarily really like jumping on video. So it's like which one do you not like doing the most? But so developing those skills to be able to keep people's attention is that skill set, like just like closing would be on a cold call, right? So how do we keep people's attention, entertain them, engage them?
You have to be an infotainer is what I call them.
Infotainer.
Infotainer. Right. So here's the thing. One of the things that I always train on is that there's a point in time when somebody is ready, willing, and willing to meet with you. And then there's a point in time where they're going to start thinking about doing something. Now, for us, it's getting a mortgage, getting a house, etc. That in between is a discovery period. Every consumer goes through it. Now, what traditionally is being taught is that you're supposed to harass the consumer until you can convince them to meet with you. But things have changed. Technology has changed that culture. What's happening now is that discovery period, and we have survey after survey. In fact, the National Association of Realtors talking about buyers say that 95% of them use the internet in their home search process. It's like 51 or 52%. The very first step, it used to be talking to a real estate agent. No, the very, very first step is they're on Zillow, they're online, they're searching for property, they're searching on their own, and they're looking for information. They're like, now, give you a story. You know this. I'm looking for a new accountant. I'm also looking for a new dentist. Now, I'm not looking very hard because I haven't really deep dived it just because I have other things going on, but it is one of those things that I'm looking for. Every now and then, I'm searching for information. Mm-hmm. I'm searching for an accountant. I'm searching for someone. I want to get to know, like, and trust someone. I don't want to just call somebody out of the book and get forced into meeting with them in person. Right. I want to, I did come across this guy, starting to follow him a little bit on YouTube. He's given a ton of information in regards to wealth strategies, tax strategies. I'm like, man, this guy knows his stuff. So he's the one that's getting my attention right now. He's kind of the one who's my base level. Haven't found the dentist yet. My last experience wasn't that great. Was with them for a couple of years. Didn't like, and this kind of just goes to show that you always have to be constantly giving service because it's so hard and expensive to gain that client, and you can lose them just like that by being a jerk. And I haven't found him yet because I can't find the information that I'm looking for. So
dentist is a hard one to make content around. I think for dentists, I mean, that's like a lot of times that's just geographical, right? They just win the business that's closest to them.
That's how I found my last one.
Or most convenient. So it's like, that near me. So in the dentist, utilizing just local SEO type stuff is, but anyway, that's off topic.
But my point is that I'm not just picking people out of the phone book. Right. I'm not. There's a ton of accountants. There's a ton of financial advisors that are located in Orange County. There's a ton of there's a lot of people that do a lot of things. And if that's the case, digital strategies is like the worst kept secret on planet Earth right now because I think every business person in every vertical, I think everybody sees the value of it. Mm-hmm. But yet, if that's the case, nobody's engaging. And one of the things that you and I were talking before this is it comes down, we think, to cost, right? It's you're doing a lot of these great reels about information about how to streamline using artificial intelligence. And one of the comments that I made to you, I'm like, the information that you're giving is super, super high valuable, but I think it's over the head for a lot of people. Everyone's going to think it's cool, but they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the understanding, they don't have the skill set to take what you're teaching them. They don't have the fundamental understanding to do that. So they either A, they have to go learn it, or B, they have to pay for it, and that's not cheap. It's not cheap. Yeah. Time is more expensive. I don't think people understand that. Time is more expensive. But if you have more time than you do have money, then of course it's cheaper for your time. But as you grow and scale and you get busy, you're going to have to make that time. Is it cheaper for you just to spend the money, or is it cheaper for you at this time to learn the skill? But the skill, I think I shared with you, I had someone call me up asking me about how to utilize a platform that we use, thinking that it's just plug and play, thinking I just need to pay for, that's what I gathered from it. And I'm like, look, it's taken me over 10 years of evolving with technology to get to where I'm at. For you to just jump in, there's it's not just the technology either, it's a strategy.
Right.
There's a learning curve to that. And I actually said you'd be better off just paying somebody.
Right. Yeah, we either pay with our time or our money, right? And it's I often forget the amount of time that I invested in like building a landing page, right? And that how those skills stack over time. But you're absolutely right on that.
Well, look, you can do it in 5 minutes now, maybe 10 minutes.
Right,
You can do it in 10 minutes now. But it used to take you 10 days. When
right,
we first started with the way the technology was, um, how you had to duct tape everything together and you had to figure workarounds out to get things to work. I mean, at least a week. It took a week. It took a week
100%.
to versus the things that we can do in 10 minutes. And the cost you invested and we invested into understanding how to do that. Whereas that's where the newer person's at. They have to either invest that time in learning and going through that trial and error,
Right.
or they have to budget for that financially in order to decrease. There's that story about you've probably heard this. It's about a mechanic. They had this like big expensive thing and they couldn't figure out why it wouldn't work. It was like an engine, and they got this expert in there, and he was there for like 10 minutes, and they pulled out a hammer and he just hit it, and then all of a sudden it fired up and started running, and then he invoiced him for like $10,000, and they're like, well, I need a breakdown. You only did it for like 10 minutes, and so the invoice came out saying that like $1 for the hammer or the ping, and
The
then
tapping.
$9,999 for the knowledge and experience of knowing where to tap. And that kind of relates to this.
100%. Yeah.
So going back onto the subject, all of this is digital. Like lead generation. I believe that lead generation, I know that you share this sentiment. Lead generation is the most important activity in any salesperson's life because nothing else matters if you don't have a lead. I think there's a way you don't have to do that person to person. I don't think you should stop, but I think there's a better way to generate that cold lead and then have a process using in-person and digital meetings to warm that up. One of the things that I encourage people to do is go for the face-to-face meeting, go for the listing appointment, go for the buyer's appointment. But if you say no, say, okay, well, how about, would it work better for you if we got on Zoom for 20 minutes where I can walk you through the process of what I do to help you find a home or how I get your home sold?
Right.
It's not a larger commitment.
Right?
See, I would do that.
Yeah.
I would do that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
Why don't you do a Google Earth of my house, right? And like check it out. Do this sky view, and we could start there. You can give me a rough estimate. Here's my square footage. Here's a video of the inside of my house, right? Like, what do you got? Give me some. What's your pricing strategy?
And I love that you brought that up because one of which is letting people know, because everyone wants to know what their home and their price is worth, and the script on that is like, look, I can share with you what the low and high is in your market, but in order to give you a fine tune, I need to see what the condition's like. So I can give you the low ends here, high ends here. In your market, the market's up, it's down, it's sideways. But could I schedule a time to, next week just for 5 minutes, just to come and preview and get an idea of the condition and the location of your house, and I can give you a better assessment. See, it's not about trying to close them. It's about building that rapport and getting that connection. And you can do that in 5 minutes because now you're offering something that nobody else. Now, as far as the mortgage side, I don't know how you'd do it on the mortgage side. I don't know. That's a you thing because applications can be done online. There's so much stuff that could be done online that you would never get someone like me in physically to do a physical loan application.
There's no need. I mean, that's like, let's be real. Like, the physical component of the real estate transaction is like doing listing appointments is probably the most valuable or like skill set that people will still need to have. But to get buyers, they're going to need to go around and see homes and stuff because how many people are actually going to buy a home that they don't visit? But a lot of the buyer, conversion mechanism, a lot of the mortgage conversion mechanism, all of that can be done online. Like there's no need for a face-to-face. And I think at least for the mortgage part, like I don't really know many people who do that. I know some who do. They absolutely kill it, but it's at first like, hey, we have a chat, and then it's like, hey, you want to come down to my office?
Yeah,
right?
They build that relationship. They provide that information to the point where the person's comfortable,
right?
And they understand. Yeah, it's just I had a thought here that I was going to share. I lost it.
It's a two-step close, right?
It is a two-step close.
Not a high pressure close, and it's just like, and then to touch on, you're like, hey, yeah, I'm going to come by your house, and then okay, would you be opposed to just jumping on a Zoom then? No, I don't want to do. If they start off with a no for the in person, then downsell to a Zoom.
Yeah. Well, high pressure sales still works. I don't think that high pressure sales ever really worked at a really high level, and I think it works at a lower level even than what it used to be. And every survey, every study that I've read shows that you repel people by acting that way. You don't attract them. Mm-hmm. And if you really want to grow and scale and actually live that dream lifestyle that you see on reality TV in real estate, you need to actually have an attraction mechanism, not just grinding. You gotta have that strategy, and there's got to be a digital component. There has to be.
Yeah, one thing that I constantly remind people is that every lead is an online lead. Regardless of if it's a referral from somebody or somebody in your sphere of influence, like we almost take other people's reviews. So it's like, I'm meeting with you to do business with you, even if I'm referred to you by somebody I know and trust. Like we're almost trained to go and look at reviews and see other people's third party that we don't even know what they think, and look you up and consume that information, right? So it's like, hey, it's like that stuff is important. So every lead is an online lead, regardless if it's from your sphere of influence or you still have to treat them the same, go through the same process, give them the same courtesy. You're not going to wing those. So having those processes in place to help treat them appropriately is key.
Well, and the other thing to that too is that any listing meeting, any buyer meeting, any loan application, your interview process has already started. And your interview process is based on what your online profile is. Because make no mistake, the majority of the people that is reaching out to you from a lead, they're Googling you. They want to find out who you are, what they want. I do that. And so I would imagine that every single person that I work with, because my ideal client would be someone who would be like me, would do that. Right?
You're basically at the final stage of the interview at that point.
And that's where it comes into, there's a lot of real estate agents who don't prepare for an appointment. They just go there with their sleeping bag and they're just like, I'm taking this listing no matter what. And if you want to make sure that you just get there and you only have like the 30-minute listing presentation, the buyer presentation, it shouldn't be a presentation at all. 90% of the information, this is what I was going to share with you. When I was on the recruiting side of things, this, what I did is I had appointment setters. And after somebody would be willing to meet with me, an information was sent to them, which was a video. And that video would outline exactly the 90% of all the questions that were asked. What do we do? What do we do different? Where are our position? Who are the agents we have? What is our pricing structure? All of that was in a video. And when we would actually call and confirm it, we would ask them if they reviewed the information they sent. And if they said no, we would reschedule. Because I knew there is no point for me to get on that conversation if in fact they didn't review that, because it covered 90% of all the questions.
Yeah.
And I also knew that there was going to be a high cancel rate from that, and there was. But the people who came through that, my close ratio from the people who actually came on board was extremely high. right, who came through it. So I saved a ton amount of time because I didn't meet with everyone. It was an automated process. It went to video. The video, and we also sent a confirmation packet of information that also had a flyer and it had a cover letter, really nice thing to kind of give the wow effect. And it also redirected them to the video. And, I was recruiting 60 people a year from that method. And it wasn't because I was meeting with every single one of them. It was because I was making sure that the information that I knew that they needed to have was, they needed to absorb that and they needed to process that before they would be willing to meet with me.
Yeah.
And if the compensation structure scared them away, that's okay, because why waste the time in their time and my time? Let's be honest, I'm more interested about my time. Why waste that time if somebody's basing their decisions solely on price and they don't see the value of growth? So that
nobody's
was
going to leave. I mean, that's not a light decision to make. Nobody's going to leave their company to a new company unless they have all of their T's crossed and I's dotted and they have all of their questions answered, right? So, I mean,
so why try to do that all in a 1 hour meeting? It's not going to happen. Even car salesmen, the person who went to go buy the car has already done a ton of research on pricing, on the type of car, on what to expect. They're going in, they've already done their research before they met with the person, which means you should have a better, you have a more educated person. So you're not doing a high pressure sell on that.
By the way, on that topic, if you've never used a car broker, highly recommend it. I've bought my last couple cars with the car broker.
What is car broker?
It's not an actual service. It's just a person. So it's like a real estate agent, right? It's like, go find me this car.
How do you find a car broker?
My wife got ours from like some Facebook moms group or something, but
I've never heard of a car. I mean, it makes sense.
Freaking amazing. Like flat rate, like the car's already bought, paid for, paperwork done. I just show up and get it.
All right. I'm going to Google that because I'm in the market.
They do all the negotiations, the search, the find. So
wow.
And this is probably something, I mean, you could get somebody who works at another dealership, like a competitor, and be like, hey, can you find this for me on your off time and negotiate it and buy it, and tee it up?
One of the values of a real estate professional, a mortgage professional, is their network. Now, I think this would be more in line with a real estate professional, but having a car broker that you can introduce to your clientele that is reliable and trustworthy, that's huge. I'm going to look into it. I'm actually in the market. So
that's a really good point. That's a huge add-on. Some crazy statistic about people who buy a new car after they purchase a home. Like, it's astronomical. I think it's mostly because they're told that they can't do that before they buy a home. Like, no big purchases, no cars. You're like, well, what do you mean no new cars? I want a new car now.
I'm gonna search for in my market. I'm gonna search for a car broker. So that's no different than having a landscaper, a plumber, an electrician, a contractor. Car broker should be all of that. See, we never would have talked about this.
I love this. I'm going to add this to my zero sum marketing package for our clients. Car broker. We already got the car dealerships that pay into the marketing budget for our people, but car brokers a great alternative to.
It's huge. Now, is that local? Is that local for Texas?
What do you mean?
When you say that you're going to add that to your list of.
So one of my one of our training components and modules that we have, it's like how to get other people to pay for all your ads and marketing. So it's like after every transaction, it's like, here's a list of everything that new home buyer is going to need, right? So they're just like you went through that list. Now the concept is taking all of those people and getting money from them to pour into marketing budget.
Like on a subscription basis.
Every month over month. Here's
well,
my route.
To that point, maybe we should do this on the next video, is having that online presence, having your blog or your vlog, and making sure that there are areas where you can promote those services, and now you can actually sell ad space to your local people. Now, title companies can't do it, but other vendors certainly can.
I mean, there's two different groups. There's people who are tied to the transaction and people who are outside of it.
Gotcha.
Outside of the settlement process. So two different groups, two set of rules. And we can tickle that. It comes in the form of coupons and a thank you basket at closing.
I love it. All right, so guys, we are at time. This was a very impromptu subject. I think that we had some very valuable nuggets. I know I'm going to go back through the video and probably cut and dice and come up with some good stuff here, because there's a lot of things that Luke and I talk about that come out of our mouths, like the car broker, that I'm like, okay, that's the one idea. I get an idea a week with Luke, and we've been doing this for years. And it's only 19 episodes in. It's only up until now that we started recording it. But now you guys kind of see our thought process on this is we get all our ideas from each other as well. So,
right.
Anything you want to share, Luke?
I'm good, man. Let's rock and roll.
All right, guys. See you next week.